Every Thursday night we catch up with the 50 Up Club and Christopher Zinn. Now the 50 Up Club, of course, advocates for everybody listening to me tonight because our audience is quite clearly in exactly that demographic, and so we talk about the issues that are important to you. And in this segment, if you want to give us a call on 131873, any ideas that you might have for what you would like the 50 Up Club to look at, to study or to do surveys on, we're happy to take that on board. We'll pass them on to Chris, who's on the line. Christopher Zinn, good evening to you.
Yeah, hi Steve. Yeah, and I'd be very interested to hear any kind of questions or comments people have.
Yeah, particularly on this issue of jobs, and I know you've got this idea of creating a bulletin board for job seekers. We'll get onto that in a moment. We're told this week that as we work older, and the figure of 70 was mentioned a couple of times, that 1 in 4, I think, men and 1 in 5 women are not going to be well enough to work to the age of 70. So we have to factor in when we're talking about employment opportunities for older Australians that you are not talking about manual labour jobs, are we?
No, and I suppose that and then it can be those who've had manual labour, how they actually retrain. So look, the Age Discrimination Commissioner, she puts a cost on $10 billion in terms of a lack of participation from older workers in the economy. And we know from the intergenerational report and other things that are coming that actually more older people are going to work. Apparently, if 65 and over, it's about make up 13% of the workforce, which is really quite high, but that's going to move up to 17% in coming years. So we can see more people in their 60s working. And, for many of them, hopefully that's because they want to, that they get some return and enjoyment and fulfillment from it. But also, we know many, it's because, superannuation hasn't grown enough for them to have a life which is really, really free of work.
But don't we find now that, you and I were talking the other day about ages, that, at age 60 now, and you think back to how your parents were at 60, I certainly feel younger at 60 than what I think my dad was at 60.
Yeah, and I think part of it's feeling it, but it's, what the society allows and permits. And, I always love this UN World Population Chief who said, that 60 is the new 40. And really, because we've got this longevity boost, which it takes us into our 90s, or people, anyway, who are young now, including some who aren't so young, that actually we have to redefine what middle age is. But part of the problem, and this is where the age discrimination people and some research they've done, is that stereotypes and attitudes of society really put workers over 50 into a box, i.e., you're not ambitious, you don't want to do anything, you're costly because you have high salaries, and actually those are all reasons why perhaps we'd be better off with a young person. And those kind of things are not accurate, but they really do tend to restrict the opportunities that older workers should have and the benefits that they can give.
How do you protect your rights as an older person when you're applying for work? Is it against the law to discriminate against someone because of their age? You can't discriminate against someone because of their sex or their race or their colour or they're too big or too small, but apparently it's okay to say we don't need you here to work in this job because you're too old.
Well, I think you'd have to be careful how you actually said that. So there is protection at law through age discrimination, but of course it can be very subtle. And I've been hearing about the way older workers see job ads, and when they put in many applications and got nowhere, so they know the code is that when it says enthusiastic and bright, that means in your 20s. So look, yes, it does happen, and it does happen. In fact, the 50 Up Club, we did a survey on this just before the budget, and 39% of the people who answered that said that they had felt age discrimination. Now, we didn't ask how many had taken it further. I think that's probably very rare that people take it further because, it is debilitating and it is endemic in the society. Ironically, as us 50-ups, there's more of us than ever. We're more younger than ever. We're more healthy than ever. Yet somehow we have to get the others to shrug off this stereotype, because I don't think it's very prevalent among those who are old enough to know, what a crock it is.
I constantly get calls from people saying that, and so much of employment application now happens, as we know, online, not face-to-face, and you have to go through these damn job agencies, and I'm not sure that many of them are anything more than a tick and flick, and they don't really care. But a lot of our audience is saying, well, the moment that I fill in my age, I don't get a reply back. The advice to them would be, wouldn't it, that you don't have to fill in your age?
No, you don't. And actually on your CV, you don't have to put your age then. And certainly clues as to when you went to university might give that away. But perhaps you don't need to focus on that. People are most interested in what you did recently and what you achieved. And I certainly, and I'll plead guilty to this, my own CV. I think I've knocked off things at the bottom because they're not really relevant anymore. What's relevant is what I've done most recently. So you don't want to highlight the fact that of your age, because the person who might see it might have a very simple, albeit discriminatory, system of weeding those people out.
We do make the point about that Bunnings hire older workers. We should congratulate them for that, shouldn't we?
And Masters as well, which is the Woolworth. Yeah, and look, I think that's a splendid example. Often, many of those people have retired or semi-retired, retired or gone back to work because they found retirement wasn't necessarily something that they wanted to do. And then in terms of the customer service, their knowledge about the product,
and blokes love hanging around Bunnings.
Yeah, and look, and Bunnings has been so profitable. It's a great business, and a good part of that must be in terms of their human resources and the people they have on the shop floor, which is a refreshing change from one's other retail experiences.
Yeah, good luck to them. Now, just before you go, you've done some work, the 50 Up Club, on who we trust when it comes to power prices. Yeah,
and this was a survey that we did last week. I thought this was interesting. Who would you trust to keep a lid on power prices? Now, the pollies have been saying that prices, it's all right, the worst is over, but 69% of people still fear they're going to go up significantly. But when you ask them who they trust, state or federal governments, only 8 or 9% trust them to keep a lid on prices. The regulators, such as the Australian Energy Regulator, about 32%. The market, i.e. competition, i.e. different people competing for your business, 52% of people thought that was the best thing actually for keeping a lid on prices and keeping the consumer interest up there, which is something that I would entirely concur with. And I think that's, something that can be demonstrated time and time again. You do need government, you do need regulators, but sometimes you can hang around a long time for them to do very much. The market can make things happen very quickly as long as consumers engage. And we've got more power than ever now with all sorts of technology. So let's make the most of it.
Well, New South Wales, the government has got a clear challenge there with their sell-off. I mean, they've got to keep an eye on it. And it's in their interest because, Christopher, as we go to the next state election in 3 years' time or whatever it is, Mike Baird's got to be able to go out there and campaign and say, see, we sold those poles and wires. Labor said that if we did, the prices would go through the roof. They haven't.
Exactly, although they are appealing against the price determination.
Yes, which I can't work that out.
So, I think that they have a real balancing act to do there. But look, they're going to have Alan Fels as keeping a lid on prices. Ultimately, there's as governments in the past have found, they don't control prices. There's all sorts of external factors that can. But I'm more hopeful that we've had the worst and actually prices will moderate and even fall a bit.
Well, that's a good news for everybody who's we head deeper into winter. Christopher, I'll catch up with you next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Nigel. If I just say go to 50upclub.com.au, you can do the electricity poll, and look, we'll get up that jobs board and actually get more people working at an older age. I think that they're going to give great service.
Both excellent ideas from 50 Up Club. Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you, Steve.